Welcome to a new episode of this podcast. I hope you're doing great. And this episode is very special because we have been planning this episode since probably more than 2 years. We actually planned it before the pandemic started. So I'm very grateful today to have Dr. C, Carlos Quijada. How are you?
I'm doing really, really good. How about you, Luis?
I'm doing good. And actually, I just finished recording another episode but it was in Spanish. And as I was telling you before, because Carlos speaks Spanish as first language and me too. But we just decided to do this episode in English so we can reach a larger audience, right?
Yeah, we might do some Spanglish too. A ver.
Yeah, probably, right? So first of all, Carlos, so people can get to know you. What is your background? What do you do? How did your journey start and everything?
Oh, wow. I always compare myself to a platypus, which is a combination of more than one animal. I started off as a very faith-based individual, working a lot within the church and the Christian community. And while I was studying psychology, I have a bachelor's, a master's, and a PhD in psychology. So now I am kind of a mixture of faith and science. That's why I call myself a platypus. You know, a platypus is a duck and a beaver, I guess, together.
I can never get it.
Well, you're gonna have to look it up now. What a platypus is. Well, it's a combination of two animals, and that's kind of what I am. You know, I'm highly academic, highly scientific. Like I said, I have a PhD in psychology. I have a master's in mental health counseling. I'm a licensed professional counselor in the state of Arizona. Very research-based mentality, but I'm also a very faith-based person as a Christian. And it's kind of funny because most people they find those things as rivals, either science or faith. You know, you're either for faith or you're either for science, and I'm like in the middle. I'm for both. I describe myself as kind of like the son of divorced parents, science and faith, and I'm in the middle. And I don't think they need to be separated. So that's why after this episode, you'll see what a platypus is. You'll look it up. Yeah, I'm a teacher right now. I used to be a psychotherapist, and then I came to Cochise College. So now I'm a full-time psychology professor. I do the therapy thing a little bit, usually when students walk into my office and want to talk about something. But I come from the behavioral health side, and now I'm teaching, which I like more. But if you want me to summarize who I am, I'm kind of faith and science. You know, a little bit of holy water and a little bit of whiskey thrown together.
That's true. So you have been a psychologist for a while, and I'm pretty sure that you have had very important cases or special cases. Have you ever had a case that got stuck in your mind?
Oh, well, yeah. So as a licensed professional counselor, yeah, I've worked with all types of psychological disorders, from seriously mentally ill people. We're talking about schizophrenia. We're talking about bipolar. We're talking about, severe depressions, substance abuse, and you can always help people. Like, I'm probably not that good a therapist. And there's people that come in and leave and don't necessarily get better. I know that change belongs to the person. It's up to the person to change or not to change. But sometimes as a professional, a lot of a sense of incompetence sometimes because I couldn't help a person change. But the ones that stick to mind the most, there's one particular case, we'll not go into details, but it's suicide. When your patient dies by suicide, I haven't figured out how to get that out of my mind, right? Because you're working with somebody helping them, and they finally make that decision to kill themselves, and they do. So that's a particular case that kind of sticks with me because that person.
Have you ever had a person who was thinking about suicide, and then you rescue them with your advice?
We deal with a lot of people that are suicidal, especially people with depression. Actually, one of the symptoms, the many symptoms of depression, is thoughts of death. There is a difference between a thought of death and a suicidal ideation. Thought of death is, I just think of my life, I just think of dying, or the world would be a better place without me, or I think about I just want to fly away or fall asleep and not wake up. And suicidal ideation is more I'm thinking of hurting myself. So when you work with somebody with depression, thoughts of death are a part of depression. And some of these people actually have suicidal ideation, the thought of actually killing themselves. So we constantly work with people like that. It's almost an every week occurrence where we meet somebody who either has thoughts of death or suicidal ideation. I don't know if I would say I rescued anybody, but I think most of the people, like I said, in my career, one person actually died by suicide. Nobody else has. so,
Okay.
so I think, I struck out once, and I think I've done pretty well. But
Yeah.
like I said, it's up to the person. As a therapist, the person's success is not my success. The person's failure is not my failure. I'm there to help as much as I can. But at the end of the day, if a person succeeds, it's their success. They did it. And unfortunately, if a person fails, it also belongs to them, right? But yeah, a lot of experience with crisis, assessments and stuff like that. It happens way more often than people wanna recognize.
Yeah, and I remember that when I was younger, I used to think that suicide was not something common. But
Mhm.
I remember that one time when I was back in Hermosillo, my hometown, I was talking to this guy. He's a psychologist, but
Mhm.
also like thanatologist. Am I
Okay.
translating the word the right
Yeah,
way?
close. Yeah, it's good. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're
So and he was, or I don't know if he still does it, but he used to give conferences in high schools and universities in Mexico. And one time he was in this university, which is one of the best universities in Mexico. Like people who are there, like these students, are either the children of super rich parents, or they have like 90 or 100% scholarship for tuition. And when you look at them, you think like they have everything. Like if they want to go to New York, you can just ask your dad or your mom. If you want to buy like the iPhone Pro 13 Max, whatever, you can
that's the
just
one
ask
I
your
want. Yeah,
parents, right?
yeah.
And actually, these people were facing a lot of stuff. And what that guy told me is like, when I went to that university, they were not telling me that they were thinking about suicide. They were
Mhm.
telling me like, hey, last week I tried to suicide and I failed.
Mhm.
So I was like, you have everything. Why do you want to die, right?
Mhm.
It's like, I don't know, like probably you and I, probably we, at some point of our lives, we're gonna be like, oh, I don't have anything, or at some point like, there's no more reason to live. I have no money or whatever. But it's like these people don't face these kind of problems. And
Mhm.
why do you think that people have like these thoughts, even though they have literally everything, when it comes to money and
Mhm.
opportunities and stuff like that?
Well, first of all, like the World Health Organization says, I think there's about 1 million suicides worldwide per year. So if I don't know if that they've updated the number or not. I think the last thing I saw was between 800,000 or 1 million people die by suicide each year. So it's very, very common. And those are the ones that we know about, because how many people possibly die by suicide and we don't know about? Those are the people that actually made it to the statistics and the books, right? So it happens. First of all, it happens a lot. It is very often that it happens. Why the problem with trying to answer that question, why do people die by suicide? There's actually a book. Dr. Thomas Joyner wrote a book, and the book is called precisely like that: Why People Die by Suicide. What makes it difficult to answer that question is that people die. So we can't go and talk to them and ask them why they did it. We can possibly talk to some of the survivors, the ones that tried it and were not successful and didn't die, and kind of get an idea. And Thomas Joyner actually wrote a book with a very, very modern theory trying to answer that question. Everybody's different. But as you know, Robin Williams, for example, like Robin Williams, the comedian, the actor. Your face, I don't know if you know who I'm talking about. Most people listening will probably know.
I know
He
who
was
you're
my
talking
idol.
about, but I don't remember
Yeah,
any of
so
his movies.
awesome actor, the best comedian in the world, according to me, made everybody laugh. And he dies by suicide. There's another individual, is a chef, Anthony Bourdain. There's this show that he would have, Parts Unknown. This guy would travel the world, eat and drink with people. He made money traveling the world, eating and drinking. And for me, if you ask me what's the perfect job, I want to travel the world, eat and drink, and get paid for it, right? He died by suicide. Several celebrities died by suicide. So I think part of the problem is how we define everything. These people have everything, materially, like you said, material stuff. And that serves as evidence that material things, that money doesn't buy happiness, pretty much, is what I'm trying to say. That's the evidence that people can have a lot of money and a lot of material things and not be happy, be dissatisfied with life, pardon me, be unhappy, be sad, be depressed, be anxious, even though materially they have what we consider everything. They lack a meaning and purpose in their life. They just live in this emptiness, right? Even though they have whatever car or whatever phone or whatever thing, fame. Recently we saw, what was she? Miss America? Miss USA or Miss America?
I remember, yeah.
Yeah. So again, somebody that we define from the outside in, beautiful, famous, made it, money. So from the outside in, successful, yet she jumps off a, 20-some story building to her death. So I think we're judging people incorrectly. And these people that have everything are really probably missing the most important parts of life, or are struggling with some sort of psychological disorder like depression. So I would change that. I think, they have everything that I would want to have right now.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah.
But they might be lacking, I don't know, love, affection, acceptance. They might be lacking a sense of meaning and purpose in life. They might have some horrible relationships. They might be experiencing a mental disorder. So from the outside in, we see an image, but we don't really know what's happening in the actual person or within the person. So
very interesting. And also, as I was telling you, like probably an hour ago, I just finished recording another episode that was almost for 2 hours. It was super long episode. And he's not a psychologist, but he studies a lot about nonverbal communication. Like he's an expert. Like he can check your head and describe your personality, your problems, everything. Like he has done like a lot of research in the past probably 10, 15 years. So he knows what he does, like for sure. And we're talking about identities, acceptance and stuff. And I want to talk about it again because like last episode was in Spanish. So probably people who are listening to this episode didn't even try to listen to the previous one. So one of the things that I was telling him is that how I have transformed my character since probably 2014 until now, or 2012 until now. Because when I was a child, like in elementary school, I would say that I used to be the same person like as right now, like energy, try to be happy as much as I can, or like more social. And when I transferred from elementary school to middle school, it was a different school. It was the time when my sister started receiving chemotherapies, and then I was jumping from one category to another in baseball. So everything was changing a lot. Plus, I was starting my adolescence stage, and I remember that I used to struggle a lot when it came to acceptance and identities. And right now, when I look back, it's like, why was I that concerned about what people think about me or stuff like that? For example, like right now, I can do whatever, I can think in the way that I want, and I don't care if people surround me or even my loved ones, like my family. If they accept it, that's great. If they don't, I don't care, and I'm not gonna change it, right? And it happened like when I was trying to go from Mexico to the US
Mhm.
to study my professional career. That many people in my hometown were like, "No, you cannot leave your family. Your parents are gonna be alone. Your sister died. Then you're gonna leave them again." And it's like, but at some point in my life, I was gonna leave my home, right? Either at 30 years old or at 18 years old, as I
Mhm.
did. And I don't regret it, but at that time I was kind of like, oh, did I did what I was supposed to do? But I wasn't that much concerned. But right now, for example, if I had to go to another country to pursue a master's or just my life, I mean, I have no clue what's gonna happen in the future. But if they accept it, that's good. If they don't, I'm not gonna change any of my decisions. But when
Mhm.
I was in middle school, it used to affect me a lot. Like I remember that at some point, I used to be like a disaster in baseball. I just wanted to make everybody laugh, to feel like accepted. And I was like, why the hell did I did it? Just because I wanted to be accepted. Like right now, I don't care if people around me are gonna accept it or not, because it's like first me, and if you want to be my friend the way that I am, let's do it. If not, I don't care. Like I'm not gonna change just because of you. But what would you say, like people, I don't know if it's in general, but at least like teenagers struggle a lot with acceptance and identities like the way I did.
Well, it's actually, I walked here from my developmental psychology class, and that's actually what you learn in a developmental psychology class. All the stages of development and all the psychosocial stages that happen in each of those developments. Right now, we were talking about early childhood, ages between 2 and 6, approximately. And one of the main things that happens during that stage, talking psychologically, socially, is a development of a self-concept. Everybody talks about self-esteem. It's a popular thing. I'm not a friend of self-esteem. The important thing is a self-concept. Who am I? What am I good at? What am I not good at? Am I pretty? Am I ugly? Am I good? Am I bad? Am I strong? Am I weak? So the self-concept is that idea of who I am. And we learn that self-concept based on our interactions with the important people in our life. We're not born with a self-concept. To we learn who we are based on our interactions with those people around us. So in early childhood, middle childhood, we're developing that self-concept, but that self-concept is influenced strongly by those people around me. So my parents, my caregivers, all those important people around me help me develop a good self-concept or a bad self-concept, right? Because I learned to think about myself based on how I think other people think of me, right? So they influence me. When you enter in the teenage years, one of the main psychosocial crises or one of the main psychosocial tasks of a teenager is identity formation, identity development. So in the teenage years, early teenage years, your parents are very important. As you grow older, your parents become less important and your peers become more important. But during these stages of the adolescent years, what you're trying to figure out is answer in a more profound way, who am I and who do I want to be? You come from childhood where you're strongly influenced by other people, and now you're getting to a point where you're kind of breaking free from the expectations of other people, and you're actually trying to find yourself and be yourself. Actually, this morning after one of my classes, I entered the world of TikTok. Now I'm being a fool and I'm recording TikToks. And in class, a phrase came up, and the phrase was, don't try to live somebody else's life. Don't try so hard to meet the expectations of others. And the cheesy phrase was, find yourself, be yourself. But that's developmental. It doesn't happen in childhood. It doesn't happen in the teenage years. You're trying to kind of break free from expectations and develop your own expectations. And then as you enter young adulthood, you actually break free and you start becoming who you are. And part of you is going to be, you're going to see like what your parents wanted, their values. You're going to see which ones you're going to keep and which ones you're going to get rid of, right? and then you're going to develop your own person. But that's what you're explaining is actually a normal progression of development. You're in the stage of your life where you leave home, emerging adulthood. There are different goals in emerging adulthood. That's where you are. And a big part of it, and probably one of the most difficult parts, is breaking free. Not breaking free as if you're throwing your family away. No. You're developing your own life. That's what you're doing. And sometimes parents, especially in the Hispanic community, don't let us break free. You know, a big thing in the Hispanic community, and I speak about the Hispanic community porque somos mexicanos, is guilt. Our parents are really, really good at making us feel guilty. We make a decision, and especially Hispanic moms, man, whoa, they're experts in making us feel guilty. So we go through life, the normal progression, developing a self-concept, starting to form our own identity, making our own decisions, breaking free. That's natural. But the Hispanic moms make us feel horrible because of this whole guilt thing. I don't know if it's just Hispanics. I want to hear of other cultures. Maybe it's everywhere. But what you're going through, you know, you're describing a normal developing person, and the stages. It's harder in the middle school stages, you know, to break free, and in the teenage years, identity formation, and then emerging adulthood, where you're in right now, is you're actually developing your own life. But again, you have that cultural guilt that you have.
But like at some point, like they used to say, like, why did I leave? Why I'm not gonna go back to Mexico? Why did I decide to go to the US if I have universities in my home country? And I was like, the reason actually, it wasn't that my hometown have bad universities, because they don't. Like, the universities of my hometown, I would say that are pretty good.
Yeah.
But it wasn't about it. Like, it was about trying to start living my own life, because
Exactly.
And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this in English. Because
I know that you could have continued your school there, but you would have stayed at home or very close to your family.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I decided to move because I was like, I want to be myself. I want to start my own life. I want to make decisions by myself.
Yeah.
Because if not, like, I don't want to leave my home, like, when I get to 25 or to 30 years old. Like, I would feel like, and that doesn't mean that it's incorrect, but we all define success and
Differently,
whatever, like, in a different way. So for me, it's like, the early I leave my home is going to be better for me and for my future. Because what if I don't know, 27, 20 years old, and I'm still living in my home? I'm going to be like super, I don't know, like, the difference. Let's say that I turn 27, 28, then I get married and I start my own life with my wife. And the day before I was with my parents, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be a big difference.
Yes.
And right now it's like, I know, I'm 22 right now. And if I get married with my wife at 27, 28, it's like, oh, I have the experience about living by myself, finding my own money, finding my own opportunities and stuff. And honestly, at that point, I didn't even look for it. Like, right now, I would say that it's just a consequence. But at that time, I used to feel like very limited when I was living with my parents. I mean, I was only probably 17 or 16, but I don't know, I just wanted to start living something different. And when the opportunity came to go to Coaches College, where you are right now, it was like, that's a great opportunity to start from scratch. It's going to be hard, but it's going to be worthy at the end. And it has been worthy, I would say. And when I was back in home, I used to feel limited because I couldn't even be myself. I couldn't even, like, hang out with my friends because I didn't have friends and stuff like that. It was just like hard because my parents, I don't know if it's like Hispanic parents in general again, like, they want to know literally everything about you. Oh, I'm going to hang out with my friends. I'm going to date this girl. We're going to go to this restaurant, to the movies, whatever. Who's that person? Who did you meet her? Or who did you meet them? Whatever. Or at what time are you going to come back? Where are you going to go? And like 10 questions, like, you know what? I don't want to go anymore, right? And it happened to me a lot because it was like, I cannot even, like, get out of my home, like my house, without letting my parents know a lot of details. And it was like, why? Like, I'm an adult already. I was, let's say, 18. But I don't know, I would say, like, that's one of the reasons. And that doesn't mean that I don't behave, like, because right now, I would say that it's even that I have, like, a bigger commitment to behave in the right way. because if
Yeah.
I fail at, let's say, if, let's say that I drop a class, I get deported the following day to
Yeah.
my home country. Let's say that I didn't pay my insurance on time for international students. I'm gonna get deported the following day, and literally deported the following day. So it's like, I know my responsibilities, and I'm not telling my mom, hey, remind me about it, because if not, I'm gonna get deported. Like, there's more responsibilities, and at the same time, there's more freedom, right? So I don't know. I would say that that's something that I had to struggle with when I was living there. And I would say that that kind of things, once I came to Cochise, at the beginning, it was very hard. And I wanted to go back home because I was homesick. But after one semester, everything started going better. And I was like, I never want to go back home. And when the pandemic started, I had to go back home. And I was literally feeling in a bubble. I mean, it was good because I wasn't paying for rent or meals, right? But at the same time, it was like, and I couldn't even hang out with my friends at that time because everybody was in their houses. So I don't know. It was hard, but during the pandemic, it was also the thing that, oh, I want to hang out with my friends or whatever. And if they ask me like, hey, who you're going with? It's like, you don't even know them. Right?
Yeah, and the pandemic changed everything for everybody, right? But our parents love us, and our parents want the best for us, and sometimes they overprotect us. And I can speak now from the parent side because I have an 18-year-old and a 20-year-old. And when you have kids, if that happens in your life and they get older, it's a different perspective. Like as a person, naturally, the natural course of life is I break free. Not kill the relationship. There's still a relationship, but the relationship changes. As parents, we have a very difficult time letting go. We wanna hold there, and it's our way of trying to protect, and not necessarily a good thing, right? Because we need to let our kids live their life as we lived our lives, but it's different perspective. And I have the opportunity to live both of them now, breaking free, doing my own thing, and now having my kids who are breaking free. Actually, they're not wanting to break free. They don't want to go anywhere, but they're making their own decisions, right? And I have to, as a parent, know I did what I was supposed to do. Now I got to let them start living their own life. But as a parent, it's more complicated than that. And we do end up overprotecting, But what you're living, I think everybody would agree. I don't think there's anything wrong or psychopathological. That's life. I think the problem is a lot of people, adolescents and young adults, don't manage to break free, and they never live their own life. Hence, that was a conversation in my earlier class that led to that TikTok and Instagram little video of stop trying to meet the expectations of others, find yourself and be yourself. Some people don't do that. I think what you did is pretty healthy. I think other people are stuck and they might never reach their potential because of the fear of taking risks and breaking free. So,
and I remember that, at the beginning, it was hard, like, to leave my country and to come to a new country without even speaking English. And right now, like, I don't regret it at all. Okay. But I don't know. I think that it's good to leave your home so you can experience new stuff and get to know, like, people from other cultures. And
it's the best thing is we live in un pequeño rincón del mundo. We all live in that little corner of our world, and we think that's the world. And the world is huge, and we have to get out and we have to do something to know different perspectives and different ideas and different people. You, for example, once because of you're an international student, so once you're done where you are right now, what's next?
So I graduate in December, and then I have like a gap between January and July because my master's starts in August next year. So I'm trying right now, like, to find like an internship or to apply for my OPT, like optional practical training. And just to work there like for these 6 or 7 months. And if not, like, the department who will pay my master's, they told me, if your master's starts in August and you don't find anything for that gap, stay with us and we're gonna pay you like a certificate or whatever, so you're gonna stay with us. And after I finish my master's, I have another year to work in the US, and then
so it's not like you finish school right now in December and you have to go back. There's options, and you're going to continue. That's what I was curious
that was a
about.
chance, actually. And as I was telling, like, Jorge in the previous episode, I was telling him, like, 3 months ago in December, I was very scared because I was like, I'm gonna finish university. What am I gonna do? Am I gonna be able to find a job here? Should
Yeah.
I go back to Mexico, whatever? And I was like, I'm gonna try to find like a master's, and that department is gonna pay my master's,
Oh,
and they
that's
are gonna
awesome.
give me like free fees. I mean, they're gonna pay for my fees, for my books, for my tuition.
That is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why right now it's
Not
like
not a lot of people get their education paid like that. Yeah.
exactly. So
Some of
when
us
I
end up
found
with
it,
huge student loans. Yeah.
right. Yeah. So when I found this opportunity, I was like super happy. Like I feel right now super blessed because I know that not many people have this opportunity, as you said.
Mhm.
And like right now, when I go back and or when I think about my high school,
Mhm.
I don't remember another student like from my generation who went to another country. They
Uh-huh.
probably went to another states in Mexico, but I haven't thought about anyone who went to another country, honestly. And it's like it's not something good or bad. It was just like we all can make our own decisions,
Yeah.
right? And right now, when I see like just like in social media, and I don't want to
Mhm.
sound like bad with this comment, but I don't see like any difference like when it comes to the routine, like going to school, go back to home, go to the gym or hang out with your
Mhm.
friends in the bars or clubs, whatever. But it's like I probably don't hang out that much here because it's way more expensive to hang out in Flagstaff than in Hermosillo. But it's like I'm working, I'm trying to save money, and when I save money, oh, I can go to this trip or I can go to this.
Mhm.
And at the same time, even like if I used to stay like in the university or when I was in coaches college and I used to stay there like in the dorms, there's still like many people that you can meet,
Mhm.
opportunities. You can work at different jobs and stuff like that, and you can keep learning,
Mhm.
and you're not gonna get bored even though you're gonna be in the same place
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
everything is new for you. Or for me, for example, when I was in coaches, I remember that I used to have classes from Monday to Thursdays, and I used to go on Fridays just to meet people, to get opportunities. Like I used to talk to Angie, to Norma, to Jennifer,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
just because I was like, they always have something to tell me. So I'm just gonna show up to their offices and let's see what they have. And sometimes they used to tell me about scholarships, about
Mhm.
clubs, about trips and stuff. And I was like, I'm gonna continue coming here because they know everything. Like
Yeah.
all the opportunities that I'm looking for, they already know about it. So I'm gonna try to be surrounded by them. And and as I was telling you before, like leaving your home country can be something positive, like in this case, but it can also be something negative because I remember that a friend of mine, she went to another state in Mexico because she got a scholarship for the sport she practices, and then she came back.
Mhm.
And probably she didn't make it because I remember that she used to tell me that she had been struggling a lot.
Mhm.
And that doesn't mean that that's not good. Probably we all have different opportunities. Even like me in my first semester in Cochise, it was gonna be my only semester. And I got a scholarship that led me to the second one and then to the third one. And then it was like semester by semester. But if I wouldn't have gotten that scholarship at the end of my first semester, the story would have been totally different. And these kind of things are not up to us most of the time.
Yeah. It's life is a combination of effort and grace.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in social psychology, I teach a concept called the just world hypothesis, where we learn that life is not fair. Basically, what people think is if you do everything right, things will come out right. People get what they deserve, and we have to work hard, but sometimes things don't work out.
Uh,
Sometimes they do. So we have to make an effort, but at the end of the day, there's a combination. That's the way I word it. Combination between effort and grace. I can do everything I could have possibly done. And in sports, for example, I did everything and I got injured
yeah.
and I couldn't play anymore.
And we
Right.
talked about it like in the previous episode with Jorge when he was telling me about it. I was like, I did my best. I used to work out
Yeah.
like way more than the best players, and they were good by nature. And I used
Yeah.
to practice like 4 hours, 5 hours per day, and I never got to above
And
85 miles.
exactly. Or and a lot of things can be playing. You might be good enough, and maybe the team is not what they need, and they cut you. So the whole idea that people say, "Oh, do your best, and you can do whatever you want." No, not necessarily. Do
Yeah.
your best, but be open to the fact that life is life sometimes, and illness comes. We can't blame the sick person for being sick, illness comes, cancer comes. Did we deserve it? I don't think so. It's just, I think life, you do your best. That's how I live, do your best. But I'm always open to the fact that, I don't know if I can cuss in your podcast, but shit happens.
Yeah, right.
Sometimes shit happens, whether you do your best. Sometimes bad people get good outcomes. You're like, what? And sometimes good people get bad outcomes. And that's just kind of, nobody can argue against this. That's how life is. So sometimes we're fortunate, things work out. Sometimes they don't. New doors open, new things work. So combination. So we got to do our best, but sometimes shit happens.
I remember that one time I read a quote that said, "If you do your best, you can win. But if you don't do your best, there's no way you can win."
Exactly.
If you do your best, at least you have the chance to win.
Exactly. If you make your best effort, you have the chance of doing it. Making an effort is better than no effort. But the result, we like to feel in control of our lives. We want life to be predictable, and we all want to think that we are in control. So good, do what you can. But as in your life with your sister in cancer, come on, nobody deserved that. It happens. In my life, with my daughter Camila, she's special needs. It's not an illness, but it's a condition. My son, who's trying out for baseball here at Cochise as a pitcher, fractured his ankle and ended up with surgery, ended his career. My other son also headed up in baseball pretty good. He gets an illness called ulcerative colitis, and right now he can't even lift his arms. He's so weak. Did my son deserve his ankle to be broken? Did my other son deserve to get ill? Did your sister? No. That's the reality of life, and I think it's what we do. Life throws us curveballs sometimes. It's what we decide to do when adversity hits. Sometimes it doesn't, but when it does, what defines you as a person, okay, adversity hit, what am I going to do now after this? So, but to say that people deserve what they get, that would be very mean to say, right?
Yeah,
because there's some
I remember that when what you're saying, like when Carlos broke his ankle, I was there actually. It was like in the morning run for baseball, and I used to go there like to run just because I wanted to, not because I was in the team. And I remember this guy in the floor like grabbing his foot, and then when I approached, like other players told me, "Oh, it's Carlos," and I was like, "Fuck!" Like, and then the ambulance was coming. It was like 6 a.m. and then I called you. I remember.
Yeah. And it was
like, yeah, they already told me.
It was a silly accident, but the fracture was very, very severe. Boom! It changed everything. And in 1 minute run, everything changed. And what I admire, did he get sad and stuff? Yeah, we all did, because you have this plan. He's been playing baseball since T-ball, and you have this idea, oh, he's going to keep on going. And now he has the opportunity, not that he had made the team, but he was trying out. He has the opportunity to possibly make a college team. Right? And boom, everything changes. So was there sadness? And yes, but I'm really proud of him because he didn't let that push him down. He gets up, didn't continue with baseball because he couldn't. His leg just didn't let him. But he's in school, he's working, his life continued, right? And now with my other son, I'm in the middle of, what's this going to do to him and to his personality? It's going to be up to him. Is this going to make him a better person? Is he going to allow this to make him We'll see. We'll see how adversity does, because it's his choice. And he's pushing through. So, life is life sometimes. But like you said, if you don't try, you'll never make it. You don't even have the chance. So you got to go for it, and when you take a risk, there's always the opportunity for failure. But if you don't try, you'll never know. Right. So
yeah. And in the previous episode, like with Jorge, we were also talking about how fear can make us do super great, or how fear can destroy us. And we were talking about different examples, like he was talking about the way he was. So he's a writer, and he gives conferences and workshops in Mexico in general. And many people didn't believe that he was going to make it. Right now, he has 3 published books, a lot of sales, and he's doing super great, honestly. Like, I really admire him. And I was also telling him about how fear played an important role in his life, and how fear has played an important role in my life. How fear can probably I don't know, before coming here, I had a fear, and I remember that it sounds kind of like awkward, I would say,
Uh-huh.
but one time in my high school, this professor asked me that question in front of everyone. Reed, what is your biggest fear? And I answered being part of the average people, like being just one more. And
Hmm.
it can be like, and it can sound very arrogant, but I literally say it because I really believe it. Because since I was a child, I remember that when I used to go to Christian music concerts, that I used to see the musicians and the singers performing, I
Hmm.
was like, at what time? I don't want to be the person who knows that person. I want to
I
be
want to be that
that
person. Yeah.
person, exactly. And for example, with Jorge, I met him in 2014 because he was giving a conference that was a super great conference. And when I was in the audience, I was in my first year of high school. I was 15. And when I was listening to that conference, I was like, I don't want to get to know him, and I don't want to get like to just talk to him and having his contact.
Hmm.
I want to be him. I want to be in the
Yep.
scenario. I don't want to be like in the audience all my life. Obviously,
Hmm.
that there are times when you have to be a leader, but at the same time, like you can also be a good follower, right? You should have the capability to follow the leader, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like me in school, when I was in school, like when I came to Cochise College many years ago. Um, I always saw myself as a teacher, you know.
Really?
And it's kind of funny that I always saw myself teaching in the little theater when I came. I came to Cochise College, fíjate, 1995 to 1998. Like, qué
You still
viejo estoy.
remember?
And
Just
I still
kidding.
remember. And one teacher, one sociologist, I don't remember her name. I still see her face like in my head, but I can't remember who she was. And she pulled me out of class one day and she says, "You know what, Carlos? You're such a pain in the ass that you need to go all the way. You need to be the boss. You need to be the teacher because nothing else is going to work for you." And then I continue with my life, and I laugh every time when I walk by. I haven't taught a class in the little theater, but I walk by it every day, and I always
Yeah.
remember like, that's crazy how that
And
works.
you
So
sometimes post stories in Instagram, and I can see the little theater.
yeah. I've given some conferences, little workshops and stuff like that with the trio program. They invite me,
Oh, I
but
was there actually, remember?
yeah. And during the pandemic, when we came back to class, me emocionaron because they told me, what room do you want to teach? And I'm like, the little theater. And they said, okay. But then some maintenance stuff happened and didn't happen. But I'm like, wow, once I actually teach a class in there, it's like the prophecy
Yeah,
became
yeah.
true. So I understand what you're saying. Some of us, we're crazy like that. Some of us are, we know we have this feeling like there's something more. There's something more. There's something more. We're made for something more. And that's just how some of us are. Not everybody, and that's okay. Pero I think what we have in common is that hunger or that need or something. Like, no, more. And that's what got me all the way through to a PhD. It's like,
Yeah.
and I honestly never thought I would do it. And until I actually defended my dissertation and was called doctor, I was like, whoa, I
Call
did
me
it.
doctor again.
Yeah. So now I love it. I'm like, everybody. It's been a few years, so I don't need to be called doctor anymore. But at first it's like everybody, everywhere.
So
I'm a
everybody calls you doctor now?
I need to tattoo doctor right here on my neck so they can see it.
Yeah.
No, not. No, in school, usually I'm Dr. C. That's my stage name. So it's the easy way. So Dr. C. Some people still call me Mr. But at first, my kids, they had to call me Dr. Dad. It was funny. It was just a joke. Everybody, right? Ya se me está pasando. And it's been 3-4 years since I got my PhD. So it's like, okay, But yeah, but I still like in school. Yeah, it's Dr. C became the name. I don't even know how that started
That's
because my last name is Quijada, so it should have been Dr. Q, right?
Yeah.
But I don't like how that sounds. So I said, nah, Dr. C. And somebody said it one time, like, so it stuck. But and still to this day, okay, you might say, oh, you have a PhD, you got everything you wanted. Nah, I still feel the same thing. There's something else. I still feel like a fish out of water. I still feel I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And people say, well, there's something wrong with you. What do you mean? I don't know. That's my craziness. I'm still not done. I think there's more. And it might be a mental disorder, but I keep on pushing. I keep on trying new things and doing new things. And I don't know if I'll ever feel satisfied. Maybe that's not the goal of life. Maybe the goal is to continue searching and doing until
That's
I
more
die.
exciting, I would say.
I think so. right?
Yeah,
So
and when you were my professor in Quijada, like I was always like, "Hey, Carlos."
mhm. Yeah, people can call me whatever they want.
Yeah,
Carlos,
and
Mr., whatever.
in one of
But
your classes, I remember that you said that when you had to do the exam for the PhD, like the last one, that you were like, I think it was virtual, right?
mhm.
And people were like talking by themselves and
Yeah,
making the decision.
what happens for a dissertation, the last thing in a PhD is a dissertation. You have to, it's pretty much, you have to do your own research. It's pretty much a book
Uh-huh.
that you have to publish, kind of a study, right? And the last thing you do after you write it, once the written portion is approved and you pass that, you have to do an oral defense. So you get with your dissertation chair, you get with a subject matter expert, some other people, and now you present it verbally, and they ask you questions, and you have to defend it. It's called an oral defense. And if you, that's the last thing. Once you defend it and you convince those people that you're an expert in your area, which is, little tiny, I know a lot about a very little bit. That's what I always tell people. I know a lot of a little bit. That's what an expert is. So once you defend it, then you get your title as doctor. But what I did, once I did my presentation, and it was virtual, and I had my dissertation chair was from Spain. My subject matter expert was in Kuwait.
Oh wow.
And then the third observer was in New York. So the time was late, we had to find a time, everybody's daylight. So after I'm done defending, presenting and answering the questions, they're like, okay, we'll be back. So I'm there connected, looking at myself as they're deciding. It's like the X Factor, like America's Got Talent, right? The judges are deciding, and they're either going to say, no, you're not a doctor, and you
Did it
go
happen
back
very
to
often or not?
I don't know. I would like to research that. I don't know how often it happens. So, but it's that fear. You're like, and then they come back and they say, congratulations, Dr. Quijada. That's what they said, Dr. Quijada. And I was going to correct them to say, that's not my name, but I'm like, as
They
long as
already
you call me
said doctor, so
as
that's
long as
it.
you call me doctor, call me whatever the
Call
hell
me
you
doctor
want.
again.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a very intense, especially for people like me. I'm not book smart. So I'm not a school person. To do it, it's like, yeah, it is quite satisfying. And of course, my family was a big part of it. Without family and without friends, I couldn't have done it. But yeah, so I'm Dr. Quijada. So yeah,
Carlos, I want to ask you for a story that you always tell. And I already know the story, but I always enjoy like you telling that story. You know the story that I'm talking about?
No, which one?
The guy in the border.
Oh gosh, remind me. Ayúdame más. Tell me more.
Okay, there was a guy in the border from Agua Prieta to Douglas that used to ask you, I think, for money or for food, and you shake his hand one time, and you were talking to him.
Oh gosh, there's so many. I don't know if I'm gonna remember the.
You don't know what I'm talking about, really?
The one you're thinking.
So you were talking to him, and I think that person told you like he really wanted someone like to shake his hand.
Oh, okay, I got you. Yeah.
Look at his eyes.
Okay, yeah, because I cross the border a lot, and I have stories. I type stories each time I cross and I interact with somebody that is impacting to me, because I learn a lot from people in the streets and mentally ill people, and I write stuff down. So the one I think you're talking about is the way this happened was I had heard Pope Francis. I know a lot of people, whether people are Catholic or not, everybody knows Pope Francis. And he said one time, I read it, or he tweeted, or somewhere I read or saw him say that charity, true charity, verdadera caridad, gets your hands dirty. And he's the one that said, the next time somebody approaches you in the street for money, don't just throw money at them. Ask them what their name is and shake their hand. Okay, that's where it started in my mind. So I'm like, so on the border, so this guy shows up to clean my windshield, dirty, hands dirty, smelly. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, and I remembered the words from Pope Francis, and I'm like, crap. Me remordió la conciencia. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this, right? So I lower the window, and instead of giving him money, I said, hey, ¿cómo te llamas? And his name was Ricardo. And he told me Ricardo. I'm like, oh, Richard. I translated his name just for fun. And I put my hand out to shake it. And what he did was there was a shock. It's like, what's happening? And he starts cleaning his hand with his pants as much as he can. But sus hombros, his shoulders, when he was begging for money, he was like this. But when I put my hand out to shake his hand, se infló. He was like, whoa, he cleaned his hand, I don't know for how long. And he would do this. And then very proud, his body posture was very proud. He shakes my hand. And from there on, when we're in the line, he would see the car. And as he's coming to the car, he's cleaning his hand. Because now all he wants from me is, ¿Qué onda? What's up? Shake my hand. And what I learned is that a lot of these people, they need money, of course. Right? Of course. And I would have them clean my car and I would give them money if I had any. But they're dehumanized. These people on the streets are seen as things, as burdens, un estorbo. Many of us look the other way. We ignore, kind of like a monster when we're little kids and there's a monster in our room and we cover our head with our blanket. Because if I don't see the monster doesn't exist. That's what we do, right? That's what we do with these people. We ignore them because if we ignore them, we think the problem will disappear. But they're there, they're people. So by asking him, hey, what's your name? And shaking his hand, I kind of returned his humanity. Yeah. He no longer was a beggar in the streets. He was Don Richard. He was a person now. And every single time he would see me from far away, he see the car, here he comes walking, cleaning his hand, because that's what he wanted. He didn't even ask me for money anymore. He wanted to shake my hand. And I think it's a simple little gesture. I didn't necessarily change his life in any way, but it was, for me, it was a lesson. It was more of a lesson for me than for him. I'm not going to say that I changed his life. No, I didn't. He changed my life, because now as I see these individuals, I can't look the other way. They're people. They're humans. And I could, if life throws me enough curveballs, I could end up where he was. The pandemic opened my eyes to that. A lot of people lost their jobs. I could have lost mine. If they would have said, you know what, Cochise College, we can't teach because of the pandemic. Students don't enroll. We were scared at first.
At some point, they were about to close the Douglas campus, right?
Yeah, because, my job depends on how many people enroll. If people don't enroll in my classes, and with the pandemic, I'm like, oh, luckily the students kept on enrolling and we did live streaming, kind of what we're doing here. And we found creative ways, but I could have been with no income. I mean, any of us, I don't like people that say, oh, that would never happen to me. Nah. Everything can happen to anyone. And, but we forget they're people. So it wasn't easy. It's not easy for me because I rather look the other way. I rather not shake his or anybody's hand that's dirty, soy enfadoso así. But my conscience is like, oh, damn it. So there I go. The other day outside Circle K here, hopefully we get some money from Circle K for saying their name. Yeah, right. Gentleman is outside, older dude, all his clothes, his bags and stuff. I'm like, dude, I don't have money. Can I buy you something? What do you want from Circle K? He's like, yeah, give me a Budweiser. Like, maybe not a Budweiser, but what do you want? Okay, so I bought him. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to buy him the damn Budweiser. What the hell? But I didn't. I bought him a Coke. So it's like, it's really hard for me. I don't always, sometimes I do manage to be so self-absorbed that I just, screw you. And I don't know, no les hago caso. It happens. But most of the times, like, at least I want to, hey, how's it going, man? Because of Don Richard. He felt so damn proud.
Actually, last summer, I remember this story because it happened to me. I was with my friend. We were going from here, like from the campus, to JCPenney, which is like super far from here. Like we were taking the buses and stuff. And we were waiting in the bus station because we were going to come back to campus. And that guy approached to us, and he was like the guy you just described. And he asked me for money or for food. And I was like, I don't have cash, but I can buy you something. It was literally not a Circle K, but something similar. Mm-hmm. And I bought him a sandwich, and I remember this story. And I probably wouldn't have done it if I wouldn't have heard like this story before.
So are we solving the problem? No, the problem is very complex. One time in Agua Prieta in Mexico, there was this gentleman that would go to church back in the day, where I would go to church, cleaning cars, washing cars, a little can. And one day I'm talking to him like, hey, where are you from? He gave me, where's your family, blah, 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 getting to know the guy. And he had a brother, I think, in Juarez, 4 hours away from where we were. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to save the world. So I got money together. I bought him new clothes. I bought him luggage. I rented a hotel room for him in AP so he can go sleep and shower and shave and all set. I took him to the bus station. I bought the bus ticket. He got on the bus. He left. I'm feeling like the best person in the world, man. I'm like, yeah, I changed his life. Well, the bus drove off, and before leaving Aguapeta, he got off the bus, sold all his clothes, and continued washing cars.
Wow.
So I thought I was a savior, right? But it's more complicated than that. There's a story behind them, and it's not about, most people, we want to go change their lives because we want to feel good about ourselves. It's not about that. Listen, stop and listen and talk. Just treat them like a person. This person did not want to get new clothes and did not want to anywhere. I kind of forced it on him because I'm the savior, right? I should have just listened to him.
Yeah.
And I felt like a fool because I told everybody what I did. Oh, everybody knew if I would have had a podcast back then, it would have been episodes on podcasts. This is what I did and the guy just walked off the bus and continued with his life. He didn't want me to save him.
Oh, wow.
So that's what I do. Like, I don't know. Yeah.
That guy, like it was like next to the gas station. And when we were waiting for the bus, like we were just talking to him. And then he ended up like asking me for $80 because he wanted to go from there to, I remember it was Cincinnati.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, I'm not going to give you $80. Like, I already buy you something. And he kept like asking. But something that was interesting is that he said that he had a bachelor's from a university and that he ended up in the streets because of the student loans.
And it could be, and there's, when I talk, like, there's this gentleman that I talk a lot about, and he graduated from Yale University with a degree in business or finance or something. And he invested all his money in a business. And what I tell people is, we never make bad decisions. Think about it. When you make the decision, you think is good. You never make I'm going to make this bad decision. At the time of making any decision, you think it's a good decision. And people kind of like, what do you mean you never make bad decisions? No, you realize later that it was a bad decision. But when you made it, you don't purposely make a bad decision. I'm going to put my money here so they can steal it. No, you make a good decision and it doesn't work out. And something, he invested all his money in a business. It didn't work. Right. So all his money was lost. And eventually, he couldn't find a job quick enough, bills, he lost his house, car. And he ended up homeless. And then being homeless, he lived in a tent in LA County. There's 60,000 homeless people or more. And when he would fall asleep, people would steal his things. So somebody recommended, hey, if you use meth, crystal meth, you'll stay awake. So yeah, you think, oh, that's the worst decision in the world. I would never do that. But okay, you're frustrated. You're in the streets. The little things that you have, they're stealing them. It seemed like a good idea. He probably got high once. It felt good. He escaped. Anyways, now he's a homeless person addicted to meth in the street from being a Yale graduate. So some people might frown. Oh, no, that's stupid. I would never do that. Okay, that's the way you look at the world. Fine. The way I look at the world is shit happens. And I'm not that good of a person to not live those consequences. I know people that suffer and that are really good people, and it could happen to me. And who knows? I could make a decision like that. So some people are frowning right now. Oh, no. Okay, great. The way I look at the world is that could be me.
Yeah.
Why not? So there's a lot to think about.
Yeah, Carlos, an anecdote that I want to tell you. I think that I have never told you this, but this anecdote is going to lead to a question that I want to ask you. So one time when I was in my first semester or second semester of high school, it was the first year. And my parents, especially my mom, I would say, was very surprised because I was never hanging out with my friends. No parties, no anything. Why? Because I didn't have friends. And I remember that my mom told me, hey, Luis, we're going to go to the psychologist because you have to talk to him. And I was like, why? I mean, I had already gone to the psychologist several times when I was a child. And then when I was a teenager because of the death of my sister. But at that time, I was feeling super good. I was super focused in baseball, workouts and stuff. I was living like a normal teenager life, I would say. And then my mom tells me, we're gonna go to the psychologist now. I already scheduled you an appointment. I was super mad, and I was like, why does she want me to go there? Like, what's going wrong? Because at that time I used to think, or I used to go to the psychologist anytime that something was happening in my family. For example, when my sister was facing cancer, for example, like I was like in several sessions throughout that year, but at that time everything was going like normal. And then I was like, okay, because my mom told me, if you don't go to the psychologist, I'm gonna take you to baseball practice.
Oh.
And I was like, no, baseball practice was always the best excuse to persuade me to do whatever they want.
Uh-huh.
If they wanted me to eat beans because I don't like
Do it.
beans, and they were like, you're gonna eat beans. If not, you're not going to baseball
You
practice.
you do need a psychologist if you don't like beans. There is something wrong with you.
So that's why I don't like beans anymore, because I ate a lot of beans.
You
just
ate
to
so
go to
much beans. Yeah.
baseball.
Yeah.
Exactly. Look, right now it's like, oh no. Right now I can make the decision to eat them or not. So
Uh-huh.
at that time I went to the
Uh-huh.
psychologist, and when I was talking to him, like, and I just realized, like, my dad just told me, like, he just passed away like 1 month or 2 months ago. And he was super cool. It was nothing like personal with him. It was just like the fact to go to him.
To go.
And
Uh-huh.
then we were talking, and he told me, like, he was asking me about why I wasn't hanging out with my friends, going to parties or stuff. And I was like, because, like, I don't know, like, I didn't have like cool friendships when I was in high
Mhm.
school. And I was kind of like a nerd. So not a nerd, but I would say like school in high school wasn't that hard. And I was like always thinking about baseball. So if I had to be like at baseball practice in the evening, I
Uh-huh.
used to stay in the recreo in the classroom just to
Uh-huh.
do my assignments and then enjoy the evening working out and playing baseball.
Baseball. Baseball
Yeah,
was your
so
therapy. Uh-huh.
yeah, baseball was a therapy actually. So then the psychologist told me, like, hey Luis, so why you're not hanging out with your friends like in high school? And I was like, because I don't have friends. And the people that I talk to, like, I don't wanna hang out with them. Like, it doesn't sound fun. And I was like, who are the people that you talk, like, you think that you can invite to hang out in your high school? And when I was thinking, I was like, no one, but I talked to these two guys who sit next to me. But if I hang out with them, I don't think that it's gonna be a fun time. Like, they are like, I was kind of like a serious guy. I didn't used to talk that much. Like, who would say that, right? But at that time, not at all. And then the psychologist challenged me. Okay, Luis, so tomorrow when you go to school, you're gonna invite them to hang out in the weekend. And I was like, fuck no, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't even want to hang out with them. And he's like, I don't remember how it went, that conversation, but once it finished, I went with my mom in her car, and she was taking me. It wasn't a baseball practice that day. It was only like physical conditioning that I wanted to do by myself in that field. So when she was dropping me there, I just stayed in the car talking to her, like super, super mad. I was like, so you just took me to the psychologist because I don't have friends. And I was
Mhm.
like, that was embarrassing actually for me. Because
Uh-huh.
it's like right now my parents also know that I don't have friends. And I was like, Mom, never take me back to the psychologist just for this shit. I don't want to go there.
Mhm.
And if I don't want to hang out with friends, it's because I don't want to hang out with friends, not because something is going on in my mind. And I
Mhm.
was like, I'm getting to know new people. I'm new in this school. And if I don't like them, I'm not gonna invite them to hang out, right? And if they don't
Mhm.
like me, like, it just doesn't make sense. And yeah, I don't remember what happened next, but I was super mad with my mom for
Mhm.
that situation specifically. And then, like, throughout my entire high school, I wouldn't say that I didn't have friends, because I had like cool friendship, not friendships, but like connections in the classroom or whatever.
Mhm.
And at some point, I used to talk to most of them, but I never hang out with them just because I didn't like I don't like to go to parties, for example. It's just like not my environment. Like, noisy
Mhm.
environments are not for me at all. Like, I can hang out with the same people. We can go to a bar, we can go to a restaurant, but as long as we can talk, like,
Talk.
and
Yeah.
not being like, with
Mhm.
like all the noise, that's great for me. And it's just me, probably, like, and I'm sure that there's many people who probably have like different things that they like.
Mhm.
And right now I want to ask you, like, why should people go to therapy?
When should people go to therapy or leave therapy? What do you say?
No, why should people go to therapy?
Wow. The answer is it's so silly. It's stupid. When they want to, when a person feels the need to go. period. Because therapy is not just about psychological disorders. A good psychologist, a good therapist is there to be, I call it a mirror and a lamp. A good psychologist is a mirror because they help you get to know yourself and understand yourself and become a better version of yourself. And they're a lamp because they shed light on your life. They educate you, they teach you stuff. They help you look at options and alternatives and help you make a decision. So that's how I describe a good psychologist, a good therapist: a mirror and a lamp, right? They help you see yourself and they shed light on your way so you can make a better decision. So it's not only, you don't have to have, a psychological disorder, depression, anxiety to go. If you're stuck in some way and you need help to move because you can't do it yourself, you go. Right?
Why should people used to say like, oh, you're gonna go to the psychologist because something wrong is going on in your life? But right now, people are like, oh yeah, I'm going to the psychologist. Like they show up. But
it's a status symbol now. I have a therapist, right? No, but it's the stigma. The stigma is people. We frown upon. For example, there's a difference between how people see physical illnesses and mental disorders, right? If your stomach hurts or you break a leg, nobody hesitates. You go to the doctor, right? But not for psychological and emotional problems. We don't do that. It's seen as something bad, right? And in one of my classes, I asked students, like, why do you think there's this huge difference between physical health and mental health, right? And a student said something really cool. He said, this was last semester. He said, we understand physical pain. And because we understand physical pain, we're able to empathize with people who are going through physical pain, but we don't understand emotional pain. And so we don't empathize with people that have emotional pain. But it's kind of funny because every human being struggles. We all face adversity. We all struggle. We all experience, difficulties in our life, but there's still that stigma. For some reason, mental health is not given the importance that physical health is given. And that's why before, oh, you're going to psychologist, you're going to a psychologist, oh, you're crazy. And yes, obviously, when you go to a psychologist, a lot of times people go because there is something that we diagnose as a disorder, but people go because something's not right and I need a little help. And a psychologist should be able to help. But in your case, your parents were coming to the conclusion of there's a problem, but you did not think you had a problem. And that's why I think a lot of parents come to me. A lot of people, hey, can you talk to my husband? Hey, can you talk to my son? And I'm like, does your husband or son want to talk to me? No, then no, I can't. Right? As simple as that. The person needs to want to come. And I don't care how old, even if it's a little kid. The parent can give me consent to treat the little kid, but I still look for the assent of the kid. The kid, when I'm having them there, I still want to make sure they want to be there. I always respect the person's autonomy. It's up to you. Do you need me? Do you think I can help you? Yes. How? How do you think I can help you? And I'll try to help you. But if you don't think you need to be there, see you later. You don't have to be
exactly. There. And I don't know why my parents were thinking about it, but I used to hang out with my baseball friends a lot. Like we used to go like to our friends' houses for a carne asada, or we used to go to the movies, to eat dinner, lunch, whatever. Because we were friends probably since we were 8 or 9 years old. Like some of these guys are still my friends. Like we grew up seeing each other every day playing baseball. So the friendship is still alive. And I used to hang out with my friends, like, but it was always baseball friends, like from school, nothing. And the thing is that I never talked to my parents about school. It was always about baseball. And they were like, and I used to get mad, I remember, with my mom, because let's say that there was like a exposition, an explanation, or whatever, like an event in the evening in the school, and I had to miss baseball because it was something like super important for my grade. And I was like, okay, so I used to go there. And then I told my parents, pick me up at this time, like, you don't have to come here, even though they were invited by the coordinator because they have my parents' emails. So, and I remember that one time I was there, it was just like, I don't remember what I did that time. I think I was just playing the percussions or something like super simple. And I only went to that event because it was mandatory. And once I look back, my mom was there watching everything in the school.
Mhm.
And I was like, what the hell is going on here? Because I was like, and when I saw her, I was like, I told you not to come. I didn't invite you. And then I was super mad. And the thing that I was mad, it was not because she was in the school. I was mad because she was supporting me in the area where I didn't need support, but
Mhm.
she wasn't supporting me in the area
In
where
which,
I
yeah.
needed support.
Mhm.
So, and I was very direct with them because I was like, when it comes to baseball, right? When it came to baseball, I needed support. I needed to be on time to my practices. I needed to be on time for the games. If I wanted to, and I used to arrive to my baseball practices like 45 minutes earlier,
Uh-huh.
just because I wanted to be there. Like I wanted to be the first guy there,
First, uh-huh.
working out before everybody else arrived. And let's say the practice started at 4. I was like, hey, Dad, the practice starts at 3:30. So I
Mhm.
was there, and she
Make
was
sure
like,
you're
oh,
there
no one's
early. Yeah.
here. And I was like, oh, probably they are gonna arrive soon. They are not that punctual or whatever. And when it came to school, like I had to be at school at 7 a.m. And I used to arrive like 6:50, 6:45 every day. And it's like, isn't it the same value, punctuality? Or why do you only care about the school and not baseball? Like baseball is more important for me than school.
Uh-huh.
School is easy. I have good grades. That's what you want. And I didn't even put a lot of effort to get good grades. But in baseball, I was putting like a lot of effort and I was not receiving that support.
Mhm.
And the school was way more expensive than baseball.
Yeah.
So I wasn't, and one time, like I had a conversation with my mom. Actually, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this episode in English. And then
Uh-huh.
I was going. It was in 2017. I was going to my English classes, and then my parents picked me up. My dad went to, I don't remember where, but my mom and I stayed in that restaurant. And she was looking at my eyes, and she told me like, "Hey, Luis, is there anything going on with you? Like, am I bothering you? Like, you have been very disrespectful with me," and I actually was. And you were like, I don't know, like, is there anything that bothers you about me? My mom was about to cry, so I was feeling bad. And she was like, did anything happen like with your sister? Like any information that you want to know about your sister? So for people who are listening, my sister passed away when I was a teenager, and many things um, were kind of related to it because I still have like some feelings, like bad
Mhm.
feelings against my parents because they were never honest with me when it came to my sister.
Mhm.
Like if you ask me who's the person who you have loved the most, it was my sister. And I used to tell her like in her face when we were like playing, like, oh, who's the person that you love the most? And I was like, it's you. And it was very genuine. Like my sister was it's a person that I have loved the most.
Mhm.
So when she was ill, I didn't even know that she had cancer. She
Mhm.
was diagnosed with cancer in October 2011. I realized that she had cancer 4 months later, even though she had no hair and stuff. I never thought about cancer because I was 12 years old at that
Mhm.
time. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't, and I didn't even have like a phone to research about her illness and stuff. And I actually never did it. I don't know why. And my parents never told me like, hey, so your sister has cancer. They never told me about it. Or for example, when she passed away, I didn't even know that the day she passed away, like the cancer had like expanded like to all her organs and stuff.
Mhm.
I realized about, and I keep realizing like right now about stuff that happened like many years after when my parents just mentioned something and I was like, what the hell? Like I didn't even know about it. Oh, I thought you knew. And I was like, how? You never told me. So right now I can kind of understand them because it's like right now I'm 22 years old. At that time I was 12 or 13. And it was like probably, yeah, a 12-year-old kid, probably they shouldn't know like everything that is going on because they can get scared.
Okay.
But at that time I was
Hmm.
like, I should have known because probably I would be like, oh, I'm gonna spend more time with my sister. I never thought that she was gonna die. It never even like
Cross your
run
mind.
through
Yeah.
my mind. I never thought about it. So when it happened, I was feeling super bad. I didn't even want to spend time with my parents because he was feeling super uncomfortable because he was like, we're missing my sister, right? And I don't know if it had something to do with my relation with my parents because
Mhm.
right now it's like that's fun that I'm talking this like we're recording, but
Remember, everybody's
But,
gonna be able to hear it.
right? But at that time, it was like, I don't know, like I wanted to know everything that was going on in my family because obviously something was going on. And what made me feel super bad is that I didn't even know what was going on because my parents never talked to me about it. And I only used to see my sister there. When she was like diagnosed with cancer, they never told me. And I remember that, I mean, like as men, we cannot cry, we cannot show our feelings and stuff.
Yeah.
It's part of the Mexican culture, I would say.
Mhm.
But I remember when my sister passed away, like that day, I was a person who was crying the most. I was feeling like crazy that day. And it happened like many times throughout my teenage years, I would say, that just by nothing, I was crying just because I miss her or because I was like, why did it happen? And stuff like that. And I remember, and this is where I'm leading the conversation to, that, and you met my dad like many years ago. I think you also met my sister. And my parents were in church, like Catholic church, since they were like 17, 18 years old, something like that. They put all their life into God. They were serving God. They were serving the community. They were doing like a lot of positive things. And then why my sister, in her case, it's 3 children in a million. So it's like, what are the chances? And
Yeah.
I was like, why God? Why is God allowing this in my family? Why is God letting my sister suffer? She was only 7, 8 years old. And
Yeah.
right now, I'm still thinking about it. Like, it has happened like 10 years, but I'm still like, why did God allow this? Like, He could have chosen like someone who was, I don't know, like whoever except my sister, right? Because
Yeah.
it's my sister. If it would have happened to your mom, to your dad, it was like, why? Oh, I don't care. Like, whoever except my dad or my mom, right? So I don't know. Like, I don't understand this. Like, what do you think about it?
This is when God doesn't make sense, and it's not God. It's we're raised with a certain idea of God. It's, in psychology, we call it God images, right? So we're taught that God is a certain way, and we develop an image of God. Obviously, God is God, but we're taught certain ideas. This is what God is. This is what God does. This is how God is, right? So we develop an image of God. Then it's a very common spiritual struggle. Then we live life. And life contradicts the image we have of God. For example, in my case, I grew up believing that, God answers prayer. In my teenage years, it was a very miraculous life. You pray and God answers, right? And then, I got married and I had my first kid. And during the pregnancy, we had some trouble there. There was my wife was having difficulty giving labor, anyways, emergency, blah, blah, blah. And I prayed. And that was the first time I prayed and God didn't answer. And for me, it was a blow, like, whoa. So life contradicted the image I had of God. And then in my adult life now, I'm still a person of faith, but I don't have that magical faith that people believe in that I don't agree with. I've kind of changed the image I have of God because there's suffering in the world. You can say the same thing. Oh, I've been so close to God in church, and I have a daughter with special needs. Things have happened in my life. But honestly, I mean, it's a whole profound topic. Maybe we'll record part 2 and I'll get materials ready for you and do this. But the thing is that there's a contradiction between that image of God, what we're told God is, and then when we live in life and we're seeing things that are contradicting this image that we have, and it creates that spiritual struggle. But the problem is not God. The problem is the image that we've developed of God, that as we mature in life and we grow in our faith, that image needs to correct itself because it's probably not the right image is not the right way of thinking of God. But a lot of people, have this image of God, and life tells them totally the opposite. God doesn't answer. Why did this happen to my sister? Why this? If I prayed, if I did everything I was supposed to do, then you realize that the world is not a fair place. And like we said before, shit happens no matter what. I don't care how faithful you are and how much you declare things. Shit's gonna happen. Adversity is gonna happen. And as long as everything's working fine, you're like, yes, this is my faith. But I know a lot of people in therapy come with this spiritual struggle. They're like, I really believe this, and adversity hit me in the face.
Yeah.
So
So
there's
when you
Go
say
ahead.
it's like, so in that case, if I wouldn't have prayed, the result was gonna be the same,
Maybe, probably, yeah.
right? So it's like right now, like that's one of my questions, like all the time. Not a question to you, like, but probably a question to God, or I don't know. Like, why are prayers helpful if the result is not gonna change?
Okay,
Because my parents tell me like, oh, pray for your sister, so she's
okay,
gonna be better.
yeah,
But it's
yeah.
like,
So that's a
died.
false image. That's a false image. Now, I'm not saying that a God cannot make a miracle. Of course, God can do whatever God wants. But from a psychological standpoint, I'm going to talk as a psychologist. Prayer is a coping skill. Prayer is what helps you get through that difficult moment. That's from the psychological perspective. It's not like a magical thing. I wish it were. I pray, God does it. I say it, and it happens. It doesn't happen that way. So prayer is a coping mechanism. I pray because the process of praying helps me get through the difficult times that I'm going through. So it's a coping mechanism. It's a way of dealing with difficulty. That's what it helps. Sometimes in my life, I'm going to be honest with you, I guess most of my prayers are not answered.
Yeah.
That's the truth. And if you go to these people that say, pray, and God will do it, and we analyze them honestly, most of their prayers aren't answered either.
And I remember you told me this one time, like, I think that I show up to your office and you were telling me about it, because I know how to translate it, but like in church, they do like these masses, and if you go, you're going to get healed for whatever illness you have. So it's like, also in that way, let's just go to these masses, right? And not go to any other masses. But
and the truth is, like I said, God can do whatever God wants. If God wants to heal somebody, God will heal somebody. But the majority of the time, nobody heals.
And if
you're looking at
because
data,
of God.
And now people get better because there's something that we call the placebo effect in psychology. So a lot of times, as long as you believe that something's going to help you, and if your illness is psychosomatic, has a psychological or emotional origin, and you drink this because it's going to heal you and you believe it, there's a healing power. There's a placebo effect that helps. But the truth is, the majority of the people that go and are ill will continue being ill. That's the truth. People of faith don't want to hear that, but that's because we've made faith into magic, into superstition. People look at faith and prayer as magic, as superstition. If I do this, then I'm going to get the result that I want. I don't view prayer and faith like that. I pray and I have faith, but it's not about me trying to manipulate God. It's about me trying to discover the meaning and the purpose of my life, be the person that I'm meant to be, and be able to deal and cope with adversity, because adversity happens. Right now, do I pray for my son to get healed? Yeah, I do. And I've been praying a lot, and he's getting worse. But I'm not mad at God, because for me, my faith doesn't work that way, and I think God manifests himself through very natural means. If somebody's going to heal, they usually heal through medicine, right? I don't think that it typically doesn't happen through miracles. If we look at data, come on, the truth, let's talk truthfully. How many miracles actually happen? No, there's other explanations for that. Is it still God? Yes. If my head hurts and I take an aspirin and it goes away, do I still thank God? Yes, because God gave man the intelligence and the science to create something to take my headache away. I'm not saying it's not God. I think God works through natural ways. For me, I'm still very grateful, and I still think it's God. Pero, like I said, God works through a medical doctor. God works through a psychologist. God works through very natural means. I'm not into this whole supernatural. I'm not into the magic, because as I live my life, it doesn't happen that way.
Yeah.
Right now, could it happen that way? Yes. And when it does, que bueno. But but some people is like, they really want to separate God created everything that's visible and invisible. The natural world is his, just as the supernatural world is his, and he works through the supernatural the same as he works through the natural. It's not less God because I took medication. It's not less God because I had surgery. And many people die every single day, even though
We
people
are
are
gonna
praying for
die
them.
at some day.
And that's life. Life is, right? So prayer, I don't look at prayer as something that's going to get God to do something. Prayer is something that's going to help me get through whatever it is I'm going through.
The thing is that, I mean, I grew up like in church and stuff,
Yeah.
but they used to teach me like, hey, if you pray, God is gonna do this. Or my mom was like, hey, or my dad, like, pray for me because I'm gonna go to this surgery. Or my mom, you can ask God for whatever you want, and He's gonna give it to you.
Yeah, and
And it's
that's a
like,
problem. That's very magical. I
uh-huh.
pray, like, of course I pray. I pray, every day I pray, but
Yeah,
not in that
because in that
not
way,
in that
like,
magical sense.
if it doesn't happen, I'm gonna be like, why should I believe in God if it's not
Yeah.
happening? What?
Or no, and what people will do if it doesn't happen, oh, it's because you're bad, because you did something wrong, because you're sinful, because you don't deserve it. There's always going to be a justification. I'm sorry if whoever's listening here, but I don't view prayer as magic.
Mhm.
And not just because I prayed for something, God is now obligated, like, like a genie, I got the lamp and he's there, so he has to grant me my wishes. No.
It's the way they sell it, like even like the way
That's
they sold the death of my sister to me, like my parents or my grandparents, whoever, they're like, yeah, like your sister passed away, but can you imagine like how many people right now are in church because of her? How many people right now are in the church or whatever? But it's
yeah,
like,
we're trying to make sense. We try to make sense of things and give it meaning,
it's
which is
actually
good. It's good. I mean, if it helps you get through life, great. But a lot of times the way we present God hurts people because, okay, I prayed and he didn't answer. That means I'm not a good person. That means that God doesn't love me.
Mhm.
That's what bothers me. Because saying that leads people to think, well, I'm not good enough. I'm not, that person is standing up talking about the miracle, but the miracle doesn't happen to me. So he's a good person. She's a good, but I'm not. God loves that person, but God doesn't love me. It's a problem with this image of God. And like I said, maybe in the future we can, if I know this is going to be the topic, I can prepare something very, very specific for you.
Like, it's very interesting, honestly. Like, I would say like many of your thoughts and many of my thoughts are because of the way we grew up. And you mentioned it like in
Yeah.
one of your classes. Like, if I would have born like in Morocco, for example, I would probably be Muslim. Or if I would have
Yeah.
born like in another country like India, for example, I would practice that religion. Or like, it also has a lot to do like with this. And things that bother me are like the way they are, or I would say like the way they taught me religion when I was a child. Like right now, I can still like think about it, and it's like right now, like as a young adult, I can be like, that doesn't make sense at all. Like, for example, when I wanted to do something, let's say what I was telling you, like when I record before recording the podcast, like I hit a home run last year after 7 years. Oh yeah, and my parents would say, oh yeah, because like God gave you strength, so it was because of God, and thank God. And I was like, but also it was because I practiced and because I did a good swing. So, and sometimes, and I have talked about it like to my grandma who is extremely religious, and she told me like if that I'm selfish because when I think about something that I accomplished, for example, a home run or whatever, she's like, it wasn't because of you, it was because of God. And I was like, yeah, but it was because of me as well. Like, why we're trying to minimize ourselves all the time? And at some point, I felt like if I don't do anything and if I pray, I'm gonna get everything. So why should I put effort on?
Yeah, and that's kind of for the Spanish speakers that listen to this. You can listen to my podcast, Polvo y Aliento, and you'll understand my perspective. And this last episode, Dios nos da naranjas, pero no peladas. That's kind of what I talk about. God does manifest himself in our lives, but God requires our effort. It's a combination. It's a synchrony between effort and grace. That's what I said earlier. If you pray, if you never swing a bat ever, like me right now, well, a softball a little bit, but let's say I pray all day for me to hit. I'm gonna go to a game tomorrow, and I pray that I hit a home run. But I don't swing a bat. I don't exercise. I don't practice. Nada. I'm just praying. I'm not gonna hit a home run. Period. That's not how God works. At least I don't think so. It's God gives you the ability to do things. So thank God you have the body and the strength to play a sport. So yes, it all starts with God, but then you put the effort in to make it happen. Every miracle I read about in the Bible, doesn't fall from the sky. It's men doing their part. Whatever story you want to talk about, whatever miracle in the Bible, it was a synchrony between God and the person. God didn't just do it. The person had to make an effort and sacrifice and make it, do something. And then, like, for example, the in that podcast, I talk about the multiplication of the bread. So there's a lot of people, and the apostles tell Jesus, hey, send people home because they're hungry. There's no food here. There's nothing for us to do. Send them home so they can go eat. And Jesus is like, you give them food. You give them something to eat. And I think God works that way. It's like he gives us what we need, but it's not just going to happen. Once you pray and you cross your arms, you're superstitious. It's magic. It's I pray and then I give it my all. And together in synchrony, things happen. So I want to hit a home run. I pray, but then I put the work in. A Dios rogando, pero con el mazo dando. I mean, we pray, but we do our effort. If people come to me, just pray. That's it. That's all you gotta do. I'm like, nah, you're crazy.
Yeah,
That's not how life works.
Because in that way, what if the pitcher prayed to strike you out?
Yeah, and then in sports, I think God gets very confused. Who is he gonna help? The pitcher or the batter? Well, who prays the more? Who prays most? Or God's gonna help the Catholic one, not the Christian one. God's gonna help the Jehovah's Witness and not, if both the pitcher and the batter pray, who's gonna win?
Probably
that's a damn good question.
Right.
Well, who's a little bit of everything, a little bit of effort, a little bit of exercise, a little bit of talent, and sometimes the best pitcher throws a bad, hangs a curveball. Sometimes the best at bat, there's a little bit of everything. But think about it that way. If prayer worked the way people say it works, then when you have the pitcher praying and you have the batter praying, who's God gonna listen to? Yeah. That's pretty logical, right?
Even like when I was a child, like my grandma, my mom, like everyone like in church is like, I don't know, I'm gonna have an exam tomorrow. And they're like, okay, so before the exam, pray to God so you can get 100. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh, then I don't have to study because I can just pray. Like, I think like, I don't know, and we talked about it like a while ago, like in a phone call, that religion is being portrayed in a way that is convenient for people, but it is not kind of, I don't know, like it's not the reality, like exactly. For example, like what you said, like what's going to be the percentage of miracles? Let's say that there are 100 people with cancer, who's going to get healed? Probably no one, or probably just one. Mm-hmm. And you're like, so if God healed that person, why he didn't heal the other 99?
And that's a big question. In my heart is like, why that one and not that one? Why am I blessed and other people are not blessed? It's more complicated. So that's why the way, like I said, if people are listening and you're a Spanish speaker, look for my podcast, Polvo y Aliento, which is focusing the whole point of that podcast is this science and faith combination. So that's the way to don't judge me right off the bat. Listen to that, right? But I see the way I say it is a synchrony. Do I pray? If I'm gonna have a test, do I pray? Yeah, I do. Do I study? Yeah, I do. A Dios rogando con el mazo dando. For me, it's a synchrony of God giving me the ability to do it and me actually making it happen. If God doesn't give me the ability, then I can't do it. So he gives me the body I need or the mind I need to do it, pero yo le echo ganas. I have to make an effort. And that's how I see it. So yes, I'm for praying. Of course, I'm for praying. But I'm not for praying magically. I don't believe in magic. I'm sorry. Dios te da naranjas, pero no te las da peladas. I mean, he'll give you what you need, but you have to work with it and you have to make your effort. And every miracle that I know of in the Bible works that way. It's a synchrony between God and the person. You know, the person had to make an effort, had to do something, and then effort and grace come together. But
Yeah.
but this topic right here is
Complicated.
it's profound, and a lot of people have this spiritual struggle, and I don't think we even came close to answer. I think we have to make something else later.
Yeah.
Focus specifically on this so we can come prepared for it, because it's delicate, because a lot of people are going to get offended with what we're saying.
Yeah, and just to start like leading to the end of this episode.
Yeah.
I remember that, I mean, you're Catholic and I'm Catholic, and
Yeah.
when we were like in the class that you used to teach, and I was there as a student, sometimes you used to criticize like how Catholics do certain things, and it's like, and you were like, I'm Catholic, I can criticize it, like I don't care. And I was like, oh, let's see what he's gonna say.
Yeah.
And some of the things I remember one thing that you said, it was like, many people criticize you because of your tattoos, because like, oh, but your body is a temple of God. But it's like same people who don't care about how many calories they get, how many grease they eat every day, and stuff like that. So why is it that? Is it like something about fanatism or something like that?
Well, no, the thing is, we have a negativity bias. It's easier to criticize than it is to understand. So by nature, and we can go to evolutionary psychology, we can talk about the amygdala in the brain. We have a negativity bias. It's easier for us to see the negative than the positive. So criticizing and judging is easy, and people criticize and judge, right? And I have a total of 6-7 tattoos, and I have a list of more than I'm gonna get. So, and when people say, "Oh, you have tattoos," I'm like, "Yeah," and you eat sugar. You know, if our body's a temple of the Holy Spirit, there's a lot of the tattoo doesn't damage the body. There's even a scripture in the Old Testament where God says he has us tattooed in the palm of his hand. I can remember the lecture. Next time I'll remember it, the scripture, right? So we criticize lo que nos conviene, right? So we have this pastor that's extremely overweight criticizing tattoos. Like, hold on a second. There's a hypocrisy here. If the body is a temple of God, then we all need to be eating a lot better than what we're eating. We all need to be reducing the processed carbohydrates. We all need to be getting away from the sugars. We all need to be exercising, right? Oh, no. It's just the tattoos are bad.
Or the piercings.
Or the piercings are bad. It's like,
and I would say that it's very related also to Hispanics, because like there's like a lot of memes like, oh, I got a tattoo and your mom got like crazy, right?
Yeah.
Did your mom tell you anything when you got tattooed?
Yeah, she respects me. She doesn't like tattoos, but she respects my decisions, right? But yeah, there's discomfort, but it's like you can't pick and choose what is good and bad depending on, no, I mean, if the body's a temple of God, temple of the Holy Spirit, there's a lot of work for us to do, especially in terms of our diet, in terms of our sedentary lifestyle and exercise. We can't just focus on one thing. But like I said, criticism is easy. That's why everybody does it. Criticism is easy. That's why. And a lot of the reasons why I have my tattoos is because I talk a lot in church, and I'm kind of an authority figure within my faith community, and I love to bother people. So a lot of times the tattoos are because, yes, look at me, I'm preaching to you, and I got tattoos, and I just like that reaction.
Have you ever received like critiques in church, like, or have you lost credibility because of that?
No.
But it can happen, right?
They might think it, but they haven't said it yet. Now in social media, now that I'm a little bit more present with podcasting and stuff, people are more comfortable criticizing in social media because it's easier to criticize anonymously when there's no face. So I'm expecting already, when I started my podcast and stuff, and I'm posting more and more stuff, I'm starting to get more active a little bit. I don't have a lot of time, but I'm expecting those comments, and I'll probably run with them. I'll probably have fun with them. But because people are more willing to criticize you online than in person, but I try to eat as healthy as I can. I try to exercise as much as I can. But I like tattoos, man. I do. And I'm probably going to get quite a few more, and we'll see once we get to the other life, maybe
Then way
I'll
people
get
like sugar, right?
maybe I'll get scolded. Maybe, I don't know. I don't
So
know. I don't
Carlos,
know.
just to start like finishing the episode, one more
Yes.
question.
Okay.
That it also bothers me. So I'm just complaining with you, right?
Yeah, that's what you're doing.
So why sometimes people say, okay, so let's say you want to do something, I want to do something, and we're like, we have the determination to do it, we prepare and stuff. And once you try to do it, then people say, like in church, okay, ask God, or if God wants, it's gonna be up to God. And it's
Mhm.
like, so when am I supposed to try? If like, when am I gonna get that response?
Yeah, but then again, we have this image of a God that comes down and talks, and that's not how God works. The way I work it is, yeah, I want to hopefully, um, hopefully I'm doing what God wants me to do. Hopefully I'm fulfilling the purpose for which I was created. There's always a slight fear that I might not be doing what I should be doing, so I do pray. But how does God talk? How does God answer that question? I think possibly, maybe, I don't know, if the desire is in your heart and you want to do it, maybe that is God telling you to do it. But then I got to be careful, because a lot of people do a lot of bad things. So I can't say, oh, having the wanting to do it is God. So I don't know. I haven't figured out yet. God's never spoken to me like, oh, it's never
Yeah.
happened. Every day, I'm like, I try to be a good person, compassionate. And if what I'm doing is for the good of people, then okay, maybe it is something that God wants. I can't say that I do what God wants me to do. That's too prideful. I mean, I don't know. My rule is be compassionate, do good, be good, and hopefully I am doing what he wants me to do. But there's some pastors and people out there that, oh, I speak in the name of God, and God tell me, like, really? That's very delusional.
That's a
Very,
good
very
marketing.
delusional.
That's it.
It's to sell a product, man. It's to make money. Like, no, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna, so I worry? Do I want to do God's will? Yeah. Have I figured out, I wish God would send me a text message and let me know what to do, but God doesn't. So
Yeah.
I gotta just put one foot in front of the other, do the best that I can, be as good to others as I possibly can, and hopefully I'm doing what he wants me to do. But I have
Mm.
never heard his voice, so I don't think you'll either if you pray like, should I do it?
Yeah. And one of the things that I have learned the most about you, it was, and I learned that in your classes, that you were always promoting critical thinking. And right now, when I think like with criteria, it's like I can get to understand more stuff. And yeah, like the same way like we were talking about God, is like how it was portrayed to us when we were children. And right now it's like some of the things that my parents or people from church or grandparents, whatever, they were telling me right now is like that was a lie. That didn't even make sense. And one time I remember it was in Christmas in 2011 or 2012 that I was with my dad in the car and we are driving back home and we saw two homeless. And my dad was like, let's go home and let's go grab food or clothes and let's give it to them. And I was like, okay, let's do it, let's do it. And then we went back and we did it. And then my dad was like, let's go another round and let's see where they are. And I was like, okay, let's go. And we didn't find them. And he was like, oh, they were angels. And God was trying to prove you were going to support. And I believe that. And right
Yeah.
now it was
and
like,
and
probably
and
it
I
was
re-
just people.
yeah, and I respect people who think that way. That's not me.
Yeah.
Right now, could God have used people? Yeah, God uses all kinds of ways to talk to us and to teach us and to help us grow.
It was probably just approved, right? You
Yeah.
never know.
But the thing, could they be angels? Yeah, why not?
You never
The
know,
thing is
right?
that exactly, that's the thing. You never know. So that's why I say, could God do a miracle if you want? Yeah. I'm not gonna say no. I'm just sharing how I kind of live my faith. My faith is a lot more practical, more concrete, because I am a scientist. I'm a critical thinker. And as a scientist, I haven't lost my faith in God. It's just grown. It's just matured. It's different than what it was when I was a teenager growing up. I still believe. I haven't lost. There's no reason for me to lose my faith, but my faith has evolved and has matured. And that's why I tell you, I'm a platypus. My perspective on life is very different because I'm a mixture of the science and the faith. It's not one or the other. I'm a mixture of both, which is quite unique. There's a few crazy people like me out there, but it's not very common. It's either one side or the other. And like, no, it doesn't work that way. And like I said, that's why I started that podcast, Polvo y Aliento, in Spanish, which you'll see, I talk about psychology and mental health, but I do it from a perspective of faith, even biblical. I use the Bible, stories from the Bible. I'm talking about psychology and mental health, but from a faith, a standpoint. And if anybody's curious, you can check out my philosophy there. It's kind of nuts, kind of crazy. And some people don't like it. Some of the stuff we said right now is gonna bother some
Most
people.
likely.
All right.
But I think these are conversations that we need to have. And we have to let like people think by themselves, as you taught us in class, because he was like, I don't know if it was me or someone else, like, hey, what do you think about whatever topic? And he was like, what do you think about it? Because if I tell you, I'm a figure of authority, so there's gonna be a bias, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna impose my beliefs. So I don't tell people. We have to be critical. We have to be critical thinkers. So yeah.
But yeah, all these topics like about God, like right now, like I'm bringing this like to the conversation because it's like, should I still believe? Like, do I still believe? Because like everything that I have seen right now doesn't make sense. Like all the stuff that I told you, but right now that you gave me like your other perspective, right now it's like, okay, so I have misunderstood everything.
Yeah, and that's your journey. This is your personal journey. You have to make sense of it yourself. Nobody's gonna make sense of it for you. You have to figure that out.
Yeah.
So.
Well, just to finish the episode, Carlos,
Yes.
as I always tell all of my guests, I already asked you a lot of questions. So right now, ask me 2 or 3 questions, and then we're done.
You know what? I don't honestly have any specific question. The question I asked you earlier was, I was always curious after you completed this degree, what was next, because you're an international student. You answered it already. So, and time is kind of on against me right now. So,
all right.
Maybe if we do this again, I'll come prepared with several good questions for you.
All right, let's do it in the future. Well, Thank you again, Carlos, and thank you everyone who stayed until the end of this episode. Please don't forget to share it. You can find me in Instagram as @Luis C as Carlos Estrada and the number 2. And Carlos, you have like 2 or 3 Instagrams, right?
Just look for me as Dr. Carlos Gerardo Quijada, and you'll find me.
All right, and then for Spanish speakers, go to Spotify and find Polvo y Aliento. All right,
Spotify or wherever you want to look, you'll find it.
You have it in YouTube, right?
YouTube too. Yeah.
All right.
Actually, if you go to the webpage, drgerardoquijada.com. Everything you need from me is there. So that's easier.
All right. Thank you, Carlos, again, and thank you, everybody, and see you in the next episode. Bye.